Hello everyone, I'm Jack Fisher and welcome to my world. And if I sound a little restless, I apologize. I'm still recovering from both the Super Bowl and the incredible trailers we got from it. Now I thought about taking some time to craft a larger, more in-depth video on this topic, but I decided to make it while the excitement is still fresh. Because as great as that game was, the trailer for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness was the real highlight. Now, anyone who's been following news about the Marvel Cinematic Universe lately knows that this movie has been subject to a lot of rumors, as well as a lot of speculation and some outright conspiracy theories. Not since Avengers Endgame and No Way Home have we had this much intrigue. Now, as of the making of this video, there are several purported leaks floating around the internet. The earliest came from 4chan, as is often the case. Later on, a few found their way to Reddit. Some even managed to get some corroboration from known scoopers. Now, I won't go over all the details of these purported leaks, and some of them do outright contradict one another. But there are some bits that are worth highlighting. But before I do, I want to give a standard spoiler warning, as well as a reminder that since these are rumors, you should take them with a grain of salt. From what we know right now, the main plot of this movie centers around Doctor Strange being held accountable for how he disrupted the timeline in No Way Home. Both Wong and Baron Mordo have turned against him. Because of his actions, other dark forces like Gargantos are set to threaten the multiverse. This eventually leads him to seek a new ally in America Chavez, as well as a former ally in Wanda Maximoff. As for how it plays out, that remains to be seen. But those plot details aren't what have most fans buzzing. It's the other variants of well-known characters that are getting people really excited. It's already fairly certain that this movie will bring in variants of certain characters from across the multiverse. We already saw in the first teaser trailer that Doctor Strange will encounter a variant of himself. Now, whether this variant is the one we saw in What If is not yet clear, but he might not be the only one. Rumors have also hinted that we'll see an alternate version of Tony Stark, but this one would be played by Tom Cruise, who was actually in line to play Tony Stark before casting Robert Downey Jr. Another rumor hinted that we'd see a version of Charles Xavier, which would be huge given that we've seen no major X-Men characters in the MCU to date. Now, I admit, I thought those rumors were too crazy to be true. I didn't think Marvel Studios would jump the gun this soon in bringing in someone like Charles Xavier, let alone take a chance on bringing in another version of Iron Man, let alone one played by Tom Cruise. Then the trailer hit, and now it doesn't seem so crazy. Right around the minute 18 mark, we hear the distinct, unmistakable sound of Patrick Stewart's voice.
We should tell him the truth.
We don't see his face or even his full figure, but that was definitely Stewart's voice. An entire generation of X-Men fans would recognize it anywhere. Now personally, I did an about face when I heard that voice. I swore my head was playing tricks on me. I just couldn't believe that I'd heard what I thought I heard. But after rewatching the trailer no fewer than 20 times, I confirmed it's real. That really was Patrick Stewart's voice. And that's a big freaking deal, because his presence could very well confirm the arrival of Marvel's Illuminati, a real organization from the comics of which Charles Xavier is a member. Now, you don't have to be familiar with their entire history. You just have to know that this group has historically been involved in several major plots involving the multiverse. And they were very much involved in the build-up to the big 2015 Secret Wars events that ran in the comics. And if they show up in the MCU, then a Secret Wars movie is all but inevitable. But before I speculate too much on that, I'd like to take a step back and contemplate what this could mean for the larger MCU. Yes, Patrick Stewart may very well be playing Charles Xavier again, but which version could it be? And that's where some of the rumors really diverge. Some claim it's the version from the Fox Marvel universe. Others claim it's a live-action version of Charles Xavier from the X-Men animated series, which would actually make sense, given that that series is scheduled to return in 2023. Now, both would make for a hell of a reveal, but personally, I think neither is true. And this is where I want to do a little speculating of my own. Because if we're getting a version of Charles Xavier in this movie, then that could go a long way to setting up mutants in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And for that very reason, I suspect this version of Xavier is not from the Fox movies, nor is he from the animated series. In fact, I suspect this version of Charles Xavier could be from a timeline where there are no Avengers, and no costume heroes of any kind. Specifically, I think it could be from a version of the House of M timeline from the comics. A timeline in which mutant supremacy is established, courtesy of a spell cast by the Scarlet Witch. And I think that would fit perfect with where Wanda is in the MCU right now. Last year in Wanda Vision, we saw that she is fully capable of warping reality. And by the time the show ended, we saw her in possession of the Darkhold. So that likely means she's capable of doing much more. And she even has an incentive to do so, having heard the cries of her missing children in the final scene. In fact, the very reason Xavier takes an interest in the MCU's Wanda is because she is showing a similar level of power. And maybe when he looks into her mind, he'll see that she's exercised that power before. And this, I believe, is where we could uncover a key element in the MCU, namely where the mutants have been all this time. As I've said in a previous video, their absence has been very apparent. Now, we the audience know that mutants could not be referenced in the MCU due to conflicting movie rights with Fox. But that's no longer an issue. And now, the MCU needs a more concise narrative in terms of explaining their absence. And Wanda Maximoff could be the key. One entirely feasible possibility for mutants being absent from the MCU is because of Wanda. Perhaps, long before she showed up in Age of Ultron, Wanda cast another reality warping spell a la No More Mutants like she did in the comics. And that's why mutants disappeared, so much so that nobody even remembers them. And if this is the case and Xavier finds out, he and the rest of the Illuminati could attempt to subdue her, especially if she's allied with Strange. That's also where Tom Cruise's Iron Man could come in. Now, his presence is not quite as clear. Some have speculated that the figure we saw in the trailer isn't Iron Man, it's Monica Rambeau. Now, it's hard to tell, but a few closer shots appear to show an Iron Man-like figure. Specifically, it matches the figure of the superior Iron Man version from the comics. And anyone who's read those comics, which I highly recommend by the way, will likely understand why Tom Cruise is uniquely qualified to play that version of the character. My theory is that this version of Iron Man is one who either took out Thanos without dying, or never lost control of Ultron in Avengers Age of Ultron. And the presence of those Ultron bots we saw in the trailer hint that this could be the case. Being a quote-unquote superior version of Iron Man, he could seek to imprison or somehow erase both Strange and Wanda. And if he managed to keep the Infinity Stones from his battle with Thanos, then he would definitely have the power to do so. It would make for a rather devious version of Iron Man, but one very much in line with the superior Iron Man comics. That would make for a hell of a clash in the movie. But again, that's just my personal theory. I have no inside information, and I am not going to claim that my theories and speculation are any more accurate than any of the others that have been put forth. I'm just trying to interpret this trailer like everyone else. But as of now, only one thing is certain. I am very excited to see this movie. More so than I was before this trailer came out. There's just so much to get excited about. And I'm sure there will be other rumors, leaks, and theories in the coming months. And we'll all find out which are true soon enough. Thanks for watching, everyone. And thanks for joining me in my world. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, take care and stay safe.